Major themes in the Book of Habakkuk. The Book of Habakkuk presents a unique dialogue between the prophet and God, focusing on profound questions about justice, faith, and the sovereignty of the Lord. Unlike other prophetic books that primarily deliver oracles against nations, Habakkuk records the prophet's candid struggle to understand why God allows evil and injustice to prevail. The book ultimately affirms God's righteousness and calls believers to live by faith, even when his purposes seem mysterious. A central theme of Habakkuk is the problem of evil and the question of God's justice. The prophet opens with a lament over the violence, oppression, and wickedness that he observes in Judah. "O Lord, how long shall I cry, and you will not hear? Even cry out to you, violence, and you will not save?" Habakkuk 1 verse 2. Habakkuk wrestles with the tension between God's holiness and the apparent triumph of wrongdoing, reflecting a deeply human concern with suffering and divine judgment. This theme encourages readers to approach God honestly with their doubts and questions, trusting that He is attentive to human experience. Closely connected to this inquiry is the sovereignty of God over the nations. God responds to Habakkuk by revealing that He governs history according to His will, even using morally corrupt nations to accomplish His purposes. "Behold, I am raising up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation." Habakkuk 1 verse 6. This assertion reminds the faithful that no empire, ruler, or human scheme can thwart God's plan. His authority extends beyond Israel, affirming that every event in history falls under His sovereign control. Another major theme is faith and righteousness. In the midst of uncertainty and impending judgment, the prophet emphasizes the principle that the just shall live by his faith. Habakkuk 2 verse 4. This declaration calls believers to trust in God's character rather than rely solely on visible circumstances. Faith becomes the guiding principle for living faithfully, sustaining the righteous in times of confusion or distress. The certainty of God's justice is also prominent in Habakkuk. Though judgment may be delayed, it is inevitable. Write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it, for the vision awaits its appointed time. Habakkuk 2 verses 2-3. God assures that the wicked will not triumph and that all nations will be held accountable for their deeds. This theme reinforces the moral order of the universe and the reliability of divine governance. The prophet further highlights the sovereignty of God's glory. Even amid human chaos, God's majesty and power are evident, and ultimately His glory will fill the earth, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Habakkuk 2 verse 14. This vision inspires hope, reminding the faithful that God's purposes are larger than immediate circumstances and that His presence transforms all creation. Finally, Habakkuk emphasizes trust and joy in God amid trials. In the closing chapter, the prophet expresses confidence and praise despite hardship. "Though the fig tree may not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation." Habakkuk 3 verses 17-18. This steadfast trust demonstrates that joy and courage are possible even when life is uncertain, because the righteous anchor themselves in God's faithfulness rather than in worldly outcomes. In conclusion, the book of Habakkuk addresses timeless questions about justice, suffering, and divine purpose. It affirms that God is sovereign over all nations, that His justice is certain, and that the righteous are called to live by faith. Through honest lament, profound dialogue, and confident praise, Habakkuk teaches that trust in God sustains the faithful in the face of uncertainty, injustice, and adversity, and that God's glory and righteousness will ultimately prevail.